A chance meeting after midnight ignites a secret neither of them can resist. But some desires are dangerous and someone might find out. Subscribe, like, and comment to uncover the full story of our little secret after midnight. The hollow looked different after midnight. The lights dimmed low enough to blur sharp edges, music dissolved into a low hum, and the smell of whiskey and rain hung in the air like a secret that refused to leave. Liam wiped down the counter for the third time, pretending not to notice the storm clawing at the windows. It was the slowest part of his shift, the in-between hour when the city's noise retreated and only the restless remained. He liked that stillness. It was a kind of quiet that let him breathe, even when everything else about his life felt like holding his breath. He was stacking glasses when the door opened again. Wind burst inside, carrying the smell of rain and the shuffle of heavy steps. A man stepped in, shaking water from his hair, his dark coat dripping onto the floorboards. Liam sighed under his breath. "We're about to close," he said, not looking up right away. The stranger's voice was deep, slightly rough. "Then I guess I made it just in time." When Liam did look, his hand stilled on the glass. The man was older, mid-20s maybe, with sharp features softened by exhaustion. Wet hair clung to his forehead, and a faint bruise shadowed the edge of his jaw. He smiled as if he knew exactly how to use it. "One drink," he said. "Something strong enough to make me forget a bad day." Liam hesitated, then shrugged. "You've got 5 minutes." He poured a neat bourbon and slid it across. The man took a slow sip, eyes never leaving him. "You always this generous with closing time?" "Only when it's raining." "Then I'll pray for storms." Liam felt heat creep up his neck. He pretended to check the till, but the man's voice carried even when soft. There was confidence in it, not arrogance exactly, more like someone who'd already learned how to make people listen. "Raymond," the man said after a while, setting the glass down. "And you?" "Liam." "Liam," Raymond repeated, tasting the name like it mattered. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Not part of the job description." "That depends on what kind of bar this is." Liam glanced up. "A quiet one. Most nights, anyway." Raymond's mouth curved. "Then I'm lucky. I needed quiet." The wind outside rattled the sign. Lightning flickered, briefly illuminating the bruise again. Liam tried not to stare. He wanted to ask what happened but decided against it. The air between them was already heavy, with curiosity, with something unsaid. Instead he asked, "Rough night?" Raymond gave a dry laugh. "Rough month." He swirled the bourbon, amber catching light. "Law school. Expectations. People who think they know what's best for you." Liam understood more than he wanted to admit. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that. Do you?" Raymond studied him, gaze tracing over Liam's rolled-up sleeves, the tired lines beneath his eyes. "You look like someone who does everything right. Quiet. Polite. Safe." "Safe's not a bad thing." "No," Raymond said, leaning forward, elbows on the counter. "But it's a lonely thing." The words struck deeper than they should have. Liam busied himself drying another glass. "You should finish up. I've got to lock up soon." Raymond smiled faintly. "You kicking me out already?" "I'm saving you from the storm." "Maybe I like storms." Liam looked up then. For a moment, the noise of the rain seemed to fade. Raymond's eyes were the color of dark honey, warm but unreadable. He held Liam's gaze longer than was polite, long enough for the air to shift. "I'll walk you out," Liam said, voice quieter than before. When they reached the door, the wind pushed hard against it, scattering rain across the floor. Raymond hesitated on the threshold. "You ever get tired of being here at this hour?" "Sometimes. But I like the calm." "Calm can be dangerous," he murmured. "It makes you think about things you shouldn't." "Like what?" Raymond's smile returned, smaller this time. "Like why you're still talking to a stranger when you could have gone home 10 minutes ago." Liam felt his pulse skip. He started to answer, but Raymond stepped closer, not touching, just near enough that Liam could smell rain and bourbon and something faintly expensive beneath it. "Maybe," Raymond said softly, "you stay open for a reason." Lightning flashed, painting their faces white for a heartbeat. The distance between them held like a held breath. Then Raymond pulled back, shaking his head as if breaking a spell. "Sorry," he said. "Long night." Liam managed a small smile. "I've heard worse excuses." Raymond's laugh was quiet, genuine. He reached into his coat, slipped a few bills onto the counter beside the door. "Keep the change. You paid double. Then maybe I'll come back for the rest." He turned toward the street, rain immediately catching on his hair. Liam watched him pause beneath the awning, shoulders hunched, and then, as if feeling the weight of eyes on him. Raymond glanced back. Their gazes locked again through the glass. He lifted 2 fingers in a small wave before vanishing into the storm. The door swung shut behind him and the hollow felt emptier than it had all night. Liam stood for a long time listening to the rain. He told himself it was nothing, just another customer, another late-night conversation that would disappear with dawn. But the echo of that voice, the way Raymond had said his name, lingered. He finished cleaning, locked up, and stepped into the cold street. The air smelled like wet asphalt and old smoke. Somewhere down the block, thunder rolled over the Charles River. As he walked toward his apartment, he caught himself replaying small things. The way Raymond's fingers tapped against the glass, the rough edge of his smile, the faint tremor beneath all that confidence. He shouldn't care. He barely knew him. Yet something about that man's presence had hooked into the quiet parts of his mind. At home, Liam dropped his keys onto the counter and sat by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. He told himself he liked nights like this, quiet, predictable, safe. But safe felt different now. It felt like a locked door with someone on the other side. He tried to read, then tried to sleep, but the city kept whispering outside. At some point near 2 a.m. his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it for a moment before answering. Hello. A pause, then a voice. Low, familiar, amused. Hey bartender. Did I leave my umbrella? Liam blinked. Raymond? Didn't think you'd remember me so easily. You called at 2 in the morning. Couldn't sleep. Thought maybe you couldn't either. Liam looked toward the empty corner of his room, where the sound of rain filled the silence between them. You really did leave your umbrella? He said softly. Guess that means I'll have to come back for it. He could hear the smile in Raymond's voice, the quiet challenge beneath the words. Next time, Liam said, try not to get caught in the storm. No promises. The line went quiet for a heartbeat, not ended, just quiet. Then Raymond said, almost to himself, let's keep this between us, yeah? Our little secret after midnight. Before Liam could answer, the call ended. He sat there for a long time, phone warm in his hand, rain still whispering against the glass. Somewhere in the dark, the city kept breathing, waiting for whatever would come next. And though he wouldn't admit it yet, Liam knew he'd be waiting too. 2 weeks passed before Liam admitted that the nights felt different now. Raymond kept his promise. He came back for the umbrella, then for the conversation, then for reasons neither of them named. The hollow had become his haunt, and somewhere along the way, Liam stopped pretending to mind. Each evening unfolded the same way. The regulars dwindled, the music softened, and Raymond appeared in that same corner seat like a secret that refused to stay buried. He never stayed for just one drink. Tonight, the rain had returned. It drummed lightly on the roof while Liam wiped down the counter. The scent of citrus polish and bourbon mingled in the air. The whole bar glowed honey gold beneath the hanging lamps. When Raymond entered, shaking water from his coat, the room seemed to tilt slightly toward him. You're early, Liam said, feigning indifference as he reached for a clean glass. Raymond settled onto his stool. You say that like you weren't waiting. Liam's hand froze for a second before he poured the whiskey. You've got an ego, you know that? Maybe, Raymond said. But you keep proving me right. The easy rhythm between them had grown into something layered, half teasing, half confession. Every glance felt deliberate, every silence dared the other to fill it. Liam placed the drink down, careful not to brush his fingers against Raymond's, though the space between their hands pulsed with awareness. How's law school? He asked. Raymond gave a low laugh. It's fine. The cases are dull, the people are worse. I spend most of class thinking about getting out of there. And doing what? This, Raymond said, motioning toward him. Talking to someone who doesn't expect me to be perfect. Liam looked away. You don't even know me. That's what makes it easy. The words slid between them like warm smoke. Liam could feel his pulse climb but forced a small smile. You always talk like that to your bartender? Only the ones who listen. He did listen. Too much. He noticed the way Raymond's voice softened when he was tired, how his laugh caught on the edge of honesty, how his eyes lingered when he thought Liam wasn't looking. Tonight those eyes were darker than usual, heavy with something unspoken. Raymond leaned forward on his elbows. What do you do when you're not here? Classes. Writing. Sleep if I'm lucky. You write. Liam nodded. Poems mostly. It's not a big deal. It is, Raymond said quietly. I'd like to read one sometime. The request was simple, but it settled between them like a promise. Liam busied himself with the cloth, but his chest felt too tight. Maybe. Thunder rolled outside. The lights flickered once and a murmur rose from the few customers left. When the power steadied again, the bar felt smaller, wrapped in a hush that left only their voices. Raymond's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, frowning, then turned it face down on the counter. "Bad news?" Liam asked. "Nothing that matters right now." The deliberate dismissal sent a ripple through Liam's stomach, equal parts warning and thrill. He poured another drink before Raymond could ask, though he didn't remember making the choice. As the minutes slipped by, conversation drifted. They talked about favorite songs, cities they wanted to see, the things they pretended not to want. Each detail carved a quiet familiarity. Liam realized he was smiling more easily now, that Raymond's laughter had settled somewhere uncomfortably close to his heart. When the clock neared 1, Raymond said, "Close up early." Liam blinked. "I can't. Just tonight." Raymond's voice was soft, coaxing. "Come for a walk." The rain's almost stopped. Liam hesitated, glancing toward the empty tables. The idea was reckless, and yet the thought of another hour under these lights, pretending not to want what he wanted, felt worse. He hung the towel on the rack and flipped the sign to closed. Outside, the streets shimmered under street lamps. Puddles mirrored the world upside down. The air smelled clean, sharp. They walked side by side without speaking, the rhythm of footsteps filling the silence. At the corner, Raymond stopped beneath an awning and turned to him. "You ever notice how the city feels different after midnight?" "How so?" "Like it's holding its breath." He reached out, brushing a drop of rain from Liam's cheek with his thumb. The touch was brief but left heat blooming across Liam's skin. "Raymond." "Don't," he said gently. "Just stay in the moment." The city hummed around them, distant traffic, a saxophone leaking from a bar down the street, the soft whisper of rain starting again. Liam felt caught between sound and silence, between fear and the urge to move closer. When Raymond's hand slipped to the back of his neck, he didn't pull away. Their foreheads touched. The world seemed to tilt. For one fragile second, Liam could hear nothing but both of them breathing. Then Raymond exhaled a quiet laugh, almost disbelieving. "See," he murmured. "The world's not watching." Liam stepped back first, heart racing. "You shouldn't." "I know," Raymond said. "And yet I can't seem to stop wanting to." The honesty in his tone disarmed Liam more than any flirtation. He shoved his hands into his pockets, trying to steady himself. "You've got a life. Someone waiting." Raymond's jaw tightened. "A life that doesn't fit. People who see me but don't know me. You're the only thing that's felt real in months." Liam wanted to protest, to tell him this was temporary, dangerous, impossible. But the words wouldn't come. The look in Raymond's eyes pinned him where he stood, half a plea, half a confession. Instead, Liam said quietly, "Then don't make it a lie." Rain began to fall harder. Raymond's hand brushed against his again, an almost touch that sent a tremor through him. "Come back inside," he said. "I'll walk you home." They moved through the rain, neither speaking. The distance between their shoulders grew smaller until their hands brushed again, lingering this time. By the time they reached Liam's apartment building, his pulse felt like a storm in his chest. Raymond followed him up the steps but stopped at the door. "This is where I say goodnight," Liam whispered. Raymond smiled faintly. "Or where you invite me in for coffee. It's 1 a.m. "Exactly." The smile faded into something softer. "I don't want to ruin what this is." Liam swallowed. "What is it?" "I don't know yet. But it feels alive." The truth of that hung between them. Then Raymond stepped back, letting the cool rain hit his face. "You'll see me tomorrow? You'll probably show up whether I say yes or no." He laughed. "Probably." Liam watched him disappear into the misted street, that dark coat vanishing between halos of streetlight. When he was gone, Liam pressed a hand against his doorframe to steady himself. Every nerve seemed lit, every thought a whisper of what. Inside, the apartment was quiet except for the rain against the window. He made coffee he didn't drink, opened his notebook but didn't write. His phone buzzed once. Unknown number, still awake? Liam smiled despite himself. Always. There was a pause, then another message. I can still taste the rain. He typed, "You should get some sleep," but didn't send it. Instead he let the screen glow until it dimmed on its own, the unsent words hovering between them like everything else they hadn't said. Outside, the rain softened to a hush. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed and faded. Liam closed his eyes and listened to the quiet thrum of his own heartbeat, realizing that whatever he'd started with Raymond had already crossed the line between curiosity and need. Tomorrow the pattern would start again, glances, laughter, late-night calls, but tonight, in the small hours before dawn, He let himself imagine the warmth of that almost touch and the promise it carried. Their secret was still safe, wrapped in the rhythm of the rain. For now. The apartment smelled of rain and faint incense from a candle Liam had forgotten to blow out the night before. The storm outside had started quietly, soft taps against the window, but now it rumbled low and steady, shaking the edges of the building as if the city itself were holding its breath. Liam sat on the edge of his sofa, phone in hand, pretending to scroll through emails, though he wasn't really reading anything. A sharp knock at the door jolted him upright. "Raymond?" His voice came out breathless, more a question than a statement. "Yes," came the familiar deep voice from the other side. "Can I come in?" Liam's pulse jumped. He opened the door slowly and there he was, hair damp, coat clinging, eyes glinting in the warm light of the apartment. Even soaked and disheveled, Raymond carried an air of effortless command, a presence Liam had never learned to resist. "Raymond, you shouldn't." "I can't stay away," Raymond interrupted softly, stepping in before Liam could protest further. The door closed behind him, the click of the lock echoing like a punctuation to the tension that had been building between them. They stood just inches apart. Liam could feel the warmth radiating from Raymond, the faint scent of rain and something more, something intoxicating he couldn't name. The storm outside mirrored what churned inside, wild, urgent and impossible to ignore. "I shouldn't be here," Liam said again, his voice trembling despite his attempt at calm. Raymond reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from Liam's forehead. His fingers lingered, tracing the line of Liam's jaw with a careful intimacy. "Neither should I," he murmured, voice low and full of tension. "But I can't stay away. I can't pretend anymore." For a moment, Liam thought he would step back, put distance between them, say all the safe words. But the way Raymond's gaze held him, steady, unflinching, vulnerable and commanding all at once, made his reasoning slip through his fingers like water. They moved toward the sofa without speaking, each step deliberate yet hesitant, the storm outside a quiet drum against their nerves. When they sat, it was close enough that their knees brushed, enough that every accidental touch sent sparks of electricity through Liam's chest. Raymond's hand found Liam's again, fingers intertwining naturally, like they'd always belonged there. Liam's breath hitched and he closed his eyes for just a second, savoring the warmth, the solid presence of someone who finally matched the restless ache in his own heart. "I've wanted this," Raymond admitted, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Every time I've been here, every time I've left, I've wanted you. I haven't been able to think about anything else." Liam's hands trembled slightly as he held Raymond's gaze. "I felt it too. I didn't know if you would. You're the only one I could tell." Raymond leaned closer, their foreheads almost touching, breaths mingling in the charged space between them. "I can't hide it anymore. I don't want to." The honesty in his words broke something loose inside Liam. Every restraint, every careful boundary, evaporated in the heat of the room and the intimacy of the moment. He leaned forward, and their lips met in a tentative, trembling kiss, soft at first, exploratory, full of unspoken confessions. The storm outside picked up, wind rattling the windows and rain hammering against the glass. The apartment felt smaller, warmer, a private world carved out just for them. Their hands roamed cautiously at first, brushing against hair, shoulders, arms, tentative, testing the edges of trust. Every touch was electric, sending shivers through both of them. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours, each heartbeat echoing in the charged silence. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the press of their bodies, the warmth of shared breath, and the sense that this closeness, this release of tension and fear, had been inevitable. Raymond's forehead rested against Liam's, both of them breathing hard, hearts pounding in unison. "I don't want to stop," Raymond whispered. "You won't have to," Liam breathed back, the words more promise than statement. In the warmth of the apartment, with the storm outside raging, they let themselves melt into each other. Kisses deepened, touches lingered, and the barrier of hesitation fell away completely. The world narrowed to the press of hands, the rise and fall of chests, the electric charge of closeness that felt like it had been building for weeks, months even. They moved together with the ease of something long overdue, a quiet surrender to what had been simmering beneath the surface. No words were necessary, every glance, every brush of skin against skin, spoke volumes. Every heartbeat, every sigh, carried the story of two people who had been keeping themselves apart far too long. When the storm began to soften, slanting light filtering through the blinds, they lay together on the sofa, limbs tangled, foreheads pressed together, still catching their breath. There was no need to speak. The unspoken understanding was clear. Last night, the night before, the tension, the teasing, the glances and touches, all of it had led to this moment. They had crossed that line together, fully, and the quiet aftermath settled around them like a soft, lingering warmth. Liam's hand rested lightly on Raymond's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and Raymond's fingers threaded through Liam's hair. Outside, the rain softened to a drizzle, the rumble of thunder fading into distant echoes. Inside, their apartment held a different storm. One of closeness, trust, and the kind of intimacy that didn't need words. Liam closed his eyes, letting the sensation of Raymond pressed against him, alive and real, wash over him. He didn't need to think about the future or the consequences. For the first time, he simply existed in the moment, completely and utterly entwined with someone who had been waiting for him all along. Raymond whispered against his ear, low and tender, "No more hiding. Not tonight. Not ever again." Liam's reply was a soft murmur, almost a vow, "Not after midnight." And for a long, quiet stretch of hours there was nothing else. No past, no future, only the storm outside and the heat between them, both of them finally free to feel everything they had been holding back. The city was alive with lights, laughter, and the soft pulse of music drifting from the university gala. Liam stood near the edge of the ballroom, fingers brushing the rim of his drink as he scanned the crowd. Graduation night was supposed to feel like a celebration, yet his chest felt tight, his thoughts tangled with memories of the weeks, the storm, the hidden nights, the longing he had almost convinced himself to forget. He had returned to his routine at the Hollow, poured his heart into poetry, and let the world around him move on. But no matter how far he tried to push it, the thought of Raymond lingered, a shadow threading through every line he wrote. Then he saw him. Raymond, leaning casually against a pillar, hands in the pockets of his coat, looking effortlessly composed yet somehow different. Older. Calmer. No ring glinted on his finger, no pretense masked the intensity in his eyes. The sight of him made Liam's breath catch, a heartbeat skipping in time with the distant jazz from the band. Raymond's gaze found Liam's almost immediately. That slow, deliberate recognition, the same look that had haunted him through quiet nights and rainy walks, pulled Liam forward before his brain could protest. Liam. The voice was low, carrying the weight of months unspoken, longing wrapped in every syllable. Raymond. Liam breathed, unsure if he was greeting or confessing. They met near the balcony, the noise of the gala fading into a muted hum. The city stretched beyond the glass, a tapestry of lights reflecting in the dark water of the Charles River. The air smelled faintly of rain and celebration, of champagne and the sharp, comforting scent of Raymond's cologne. "I've missed you," Raymond said, stepping closer. Not touching, but close enough that Liam could feel the heat radiating from him, the pull that had never dimmed. "I left everything behind because I couldn't forget you. I can't pretend I didn't want this. I want you." Liam's heart pounded, the words reverberating in the hollow space of his chest. The months apart had been cruel, every quiet evening, every poem, every lonely step home reminding him of what they had shared. Yet here he was, the man who had haunted his nights, finally standing before him with no barriers, no secrets. "I wanted you too," Liam admitted, voice barely above the hum of the city. "Even when I tried not to." Raymond's lips curved into a soft, almost shy smile. "Then let's stop pretending. Tonight we don't hide anything. Not anymore." The tension that had stretched between them for weeks, for months, seemed to dissolve in that instant. Liam reached out, fingers brushing against Raymond's hand, their touch tentative at first, then lingering. Every glance, every breath, every slight movement spoke volumes. "You're sure?" Liam asked, though the thought of saying no was impossible. Raymond nodded, eyes locking on his. "I've never been more certain of anything." The city around them blurred. Sounds faded. Hands found hands, lips found lips, and the quiet intimacy of their first kiss after months apart wrapped around them like a blanket. Their closeness was magnetic, a force neither could resist. Liam's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he pressed a little closer, feeling the warmth of Raymond's body against his, the subtle brush of arms, the shared heat of breaths mingling. "I've waited," Raymond whispered against his mouth, a tremor in his voice betraying the calm mask he wore so well. "And I've waited too," Liam replied, voice husky, fingers threading through the hair at the nape of Raymond's neck. The night stretched into a soft eternity. Every touch was electric, every glance searing in its intensity. They moved together like two halves finally reunited, the months apart making the closeness more urgent, more necessary. It was an intimacy built on trust, longing, and the knowledge that this moment had been inevitable. Raymond's hands cupped Liam's face, thumbs brushing over his cheekbones as their foreheads rested together. They didn't speak for long, letting the silence hold the weight of everything. The secrets, the desire, the confessions, the unspoken promises. "I never want to let go," Raymond murmured, voice trembling with honesty. "You won't have to," Liam breathed back, heart full, eyes shining. They stood there, wrapped in each other's warmth, the city lights painting their silhouettes against the glass. Every heartbeat was a vow, every breath, a declaration. The storm of the past weeks, the tension, the longing, it all collapsed into this single perfect moment. Finally, Raymond pressed his lips to Liam's once more, soft and unhurried, a seal on their promises. Liam's hands held him close, grounding him, memorizing the feel of him, the rhythm of his pulse, the certainty of their connection. When they finally pulled back just slightly, neither broke contact. Raymond's forehead rested against Liam's again and he whispered, "No more secrets. Not after midnight." "Not after midnight," Liam echoed, letting the words sink in like a vow. The gala carried on around them, unaware of the small universe they had carved out on the balcony. But inside that warm, intimate space nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the future, not the world outside. Only them. Only the quiet assurance that they had finally chosen each other, fully, completely, without reservations. And in that suspended moment, Liam realized that love, when honest and unhidden, could be the fiercest, most beautiful storm of all. They stayed wrapped together as the city carried on, two hearts beating in time, finally free to live without hiding, without fear, and without secrets.